Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Collier. I'm your host with Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't want to miss. I have a great guest today. I have Dr. Teresa Smith. Dr. Teresa, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
Well, just those of you who don't know, we tried to do this once before, and technical difficulty, human error, whatever you want to call it. Dr. Teresa, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do.
I'm a North Carolina native. A little bit about myself, and then whenever someone asks me that, it always puts me on the spot. I am an author. I'm a media personality, a home cook. I'm also a trauma survivor, and so that's who I am.
Wow. So let's go back to your hero story that you eloquently put together yesterday or the other day when we recorded and or attempted to record. and tell us again about your hero journey, your story at the beginning and how you got to where you are today.
I am the oldest of three girls. And one of the things that I remember as a child was the fact that I learned quickly that adults can be cruel. And one of the things that I learned was that people will try to put their perspective on you so that you can carry their burden. And by that, I mean, someone said to me as a little girl that I was the ugliest little black girl that they'd ever seen. And I thought, that's interesting. It did not stop me from becoming who I am now, but I never forgot it. As I stated, it taught me that if I was to achieve what I wanted to achieve, I had to understand the world that I lived in. As a person who was uh, sexually abused at the age of 4, who would then go on to see her uncle shot and killed by the police on Sunday, January the 1st, 1978. Then in 79, I would lose my sight. I learned that being the ugliest little black child meant that I could be whatever I wanted to be. Because basically, what the person was saying to me from their perspective was that no one thought that I would be anything because I had to look a certain way. And so it did not propel me, but it was something that I remembered. And so when you fast forward, I am proud to be a Black woman. I'm proud of my complexion, and I wear my blonde hair very well. And I understand that my journey has not just been about me. My journey was to be able to empower other people. And so here I am now, decades later. I went from being the ugliest little black girl to being this beautiful black woman with this blonde hair who has earned 4 degrees. And my goal is to help other people to understand that just as I did it, they can do it also.
Wow, so much to unpack there. Um, we talked about this before, but one of the things that makes you an incredible find is you've been through so much and you could have turned bitter, but you turned better because you learned that you can't be the victim and the victor at the same time. Excuse me.
Mhm.
You learned that it didn't happen to you, it happened for you and for someone else.
Mhm.
So you could help them through their trauma, help them through their pain, help them through their situation. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Interestingly enough, I was meeting with someone very recently, and they began to talk about their struggles. And I said to them, basically what you just stated. I said, you know, normally I would not be able to say that I understand this particular aspect of what you're going through, but it just so happens that I do. If you had talked to me a year ago, I would have said no, but now I understand it. And I said to them, I shared some of what I was talking about and what they were talking about. And I said, now I have a perspective to bring to this situation when it comes up with people that I would not have understood before. And I began to describe the range of emotions that the person is experiencing. And I was spot on. And so I was like, thank you, God. I now see in real time why I had to experience what I experienced, because here I am, even in the midst of my own coming to terms with something, able to help someone else. So, what I wound up doing was empowering them, because my belief is this: we all should take a moment to experience our feelings. As C.C. Bloom said, which is Bette Midler, and Beaches said, Cece, I feel things. We should all feel our emotions. The problem is, which is what you go back to, I can't be the victim and the victor if I choose to stay in that space. But we can experience them, and we need to experience them so that we don't become bitter. But then, as I said to this person, you got to pick up your bed and move on. You can't stay stuck there, because when you do that, you don't progress. You're paralyzed. So this event happened whenever. It's 5 years later. You're still in the same space. That's your problem, not the other person. And so my thing is, how can I propel other people to see that what is happening for them is the learning lesson, and it's what life is all about. Don't get stuck in the what's happening, the circumstances. Let's learn the lesson and move on. So that's the way that's the way I view life. I don't like groundhog effects. Now, I'll tell you, I'm slightly having a groundhog effect, guys, but I already know what the problem is, and I am claiming it. And when the medical professionals tell me, I'm gonna say, I know. My body talks to me, and I'm listening. So now I got to figure out what you're going to do differently so that you don't end up here. I done been there before. I'm not going there. So again, it's about being the victor, not the victim. Don't wallow too long. Get out of the mud and go on back to your daddy. I'm talking about the rich man's son now. He wanted his inheritance, and he went out and spent it all and had a great time. You let me deal with the swine. Let me just clean the swine. You don't have to do that. That's my son. Get up and move forward.
It's interesting you say that, because a lot of times I've heard a lot of preachers use that, but what they don't realize, in Hebrew tradition, the real prodigal was the one who stayed at home,
Mhm.
because his response was, I couldn't get away with that. His response was, I would have done that if I knew I could have done it.
Mhm.
But you never killed anything for me. You never done anything for me. Wait, he's provided all this for you. Everything he owns, once he's gone, is yours.
Mhm.
But you're stuck on, your brother was lost and now he's found, and you can't get over the fact that he squandered half the
Mhm.
inheritance.
Mhm.
Or actually, it was less than, because he was the older brother, the one who stayed. The
Mhm.
younger brother didn't get as much. That's a whole nother story, whole nother
Mhm.
time. But the thing is like, he got stuck in his feelings. The kids now say, I'm in my feels.
Yep. Mhm.
You get stuck in your feels, you can't progress. My grandma said something that was profound, and I didn't realize how profound it was. She said, you're either growing or shrinking. There's no,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
okay to take a moment and feel the feelings that you feel.
Yeah.
And after you feel them, let them go.
Let them
That
go.
this movie was great. Let it go, let it go.
Oh yeah, I'm with
You
you.
gotta let things go. Though, if you hang on to something, if you hang on to it, someone you had a relationship with, and oh, that was the best woman or friend or whatever, and then it went bad or
Mhm.
didn't get what you wanted, and you don't let it go, there's a problem. And it's you, because you're not changing, you're not developing, you're not growing.
No, it's all
So
you.
how do you help someone feel the feels and then move on, other than just telling them? How do you do that, doctor?
You know, I make these little notes because there's so many things I could say. Well, the first thing is acknowledging why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Then acknowledging what happened. As I said to the person recently, they shared the circumstances, and I said to them, I'm trying to see if I can share the circumstances. Well, I was in a conversation with somebody, And the person said to me, they said many things. I'm weaving lots of different stories together, guys. But this particular story, the person was in a break, they were having a breakup. And the gentleman was like, they didn't mean anything to me. Now, I'm in this space right now where it's all about respect for me. But respect is different than what people generally would probably think about respect. It's respecting me. And what does that look like? Does that mean that I'm going to work 24/7? I'm being disrespectful to Teresa. Does it mean that I'm not going to get any exercise? That's disrespectful to me. Am I not going to eat properly? That's disrespectful. So when I talk about respect, I'm not talking about it the way other people talk about respect. So when the person and I were dialoguing about that, I said, oh, I said, be still my heart. You're telling me that they didn't mean anything to you. Oh, that's so disrespectful. Because you now have committed the ultimate disrespect. Now, understand what I'm saying. I'm in a relationship with this person, and he tells her that, oh, they didn't mean anything. So you're going to risk, I think they've been together, they've known each other in high school, come back into each other's life. They built a business together that was flourishing. So you're going to risk, they were engaged, this life that we built together. They didn't mean anything to you? Oh, that's so disrespectful. You have now committed the ultimate disrespect. What are you saying, Taz? One, you cheated on me. That's disrespectful. Really, it is, guys. I got to deal with that. Second, you disrespected me by being with people that didn't mean anything. Okay. Now, woo, that's real disrespectful. Then you tell me, then you expect me to deal with that and get over it. Well, if I deal with that and get over it, and we've not walked down the aisle yet, then the ultimate disrespect comes from me. Because now I have signed off on you disrespecting me. They don't mean nothing. Well, gosh, well, that's something. You're going to disrespect our relationship and disrespect me. And I don't mean it the way you guys would think it. No, you're telling me I'm nothing to you. And they were nothing. And you thought it was okay to be with nothing and throw away what was supposed to be something. And if I accept it, oh, that's disrespectful. So, helping that person, they understood it. The man could not understand it. But as she has navigated this, because we're talking about a lengthy time together, they were engaged. As she has navigated this, she's had to rely upon her external support. Her faith, the people in her faith have helped to rally to make sure that she's where she needs to be financially, meaning she's disconnected from the business because it was her business. Uh, got her car back because it was her car. The girl, one of the women had to bring her car keys. Whew, it was so disrespectful. Um, and so she's moving on, but she's making small steps because what has happened is she has begun to doubt who she is. Her judgment, simple things, she won't trust herself because she believes, even though she can't verbalize it yet, that something was wrong, that she didn't see it, she missed it. But it wasn't that she missed it, it's just that it wasn't time for it to be revealed. But when God revealed it, she immediately responded. And so she's now, she's coming to a place, she knows she made the right decision. There are days that she wallows a little bit, but she's moving on. But the thing about moving on is, as I said with her, it's up and down because you're up this moment, but then life happens, you remember. And as we were talking about, sometimes it's not that you miss the person, you miss the expectation of what would have been occurring. Not that you miss the person, but then you miss the person too. And so, again, what I try to empower people to understand, Chris, is that you have to walk through each step of it. You can't miss a step because when you play hopscotch, I think that was the game, you used to skip over them little different squares. This ain't hopscotch, it's life. When you hop over something, that means you haven't dealt with it. You haven't felt that emotion. So then you fall victim to it again in the long term, but also in the short term, it impacts your ability to fully function as a human being. And that's what's happening with this person. Even though they're going through the steps, they have so many other things happening that they're not able to fully function. And so it's impacting them on so many other levels. So what I say all that to say this: feel it, understand what you're feeling, figure out how you're going to protect yourself, how you're going to respect yourself so that you can move through the stages of grief effectively so that you come out of it on the other side as whole of a person as we can be in this human body.
Wow. Wow. So much to unpack there. I just want to say, way you described it, this is what I saw. I saw a roller coaster, right? A roller coaster, a big first hill, down first big hill, and then loop de loops and whatever else. You want to sum it up to where that first hill is really. And then you want to make that hill shorter and not as deep as you go on. Like you're always correcting the hill.
That's it.
You're always fixing it so that as you relive it, as you go back, as life gets in the way or life starts to challenge you, you go, I'm going to take this rung out. I don't need this part of that person or that situation. And I really think this is just how I think about relationships. I think the biggest treason that was committed was in the reason why we get so upset when someone does something like that to us is because our belief in that person or who that person was supposed to be didn't measure up to who they really were. And I remember a wise old man told me one time, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Believe them.
And so when that guy said, you're nothing, really what he's saying is, I'm nothing. He didn't say, you're nothing. He said, I can't measure up to who you expect yourself to be and who you want me to be. If you would have hung in there a little bit longer, there would have been a correction where he could start to live up that place. And he would have gotten, sometimes it's just who we hang around.
That's true too.
Because I know in the financial circles, they'll tell you, you make what your 5 closest friends make. I'm in a group of 5 or 10 people. You know this group. We're all on our way to 6 figures plus. So the thing about this is who you hang around, you become. So if you're always down at the bar and you're always hitting on the waitresses, guess what? All your friends do. I'm just saying, not judging, just saying. If you and your friends are always going out on the streets and talking whatever kind of talk, that's what's going to happen because they're your 5 closest friends. If every one of your friends makes $45,000, you're going to make $45,000. There's nothing wrong with making $45,000.
No.
If that's what you want. But if you want to be greater, surround yourself by greater. I do it by listening to people who make more than me. I do it by buying time with those people. Why would I buy time? Because birds of a feather flock together.
They do.
And it can rub off. What you can't learn, you can catch.
Yes. True. Oh, that's so nice. I like that. Yeah, if you can't learn it, catch it. I like that. That was a slow one on me. I had to. I like that.
Here, let me make it even easier. What you can't be taught can be caught.
I may have to use that. Can't be learned. Can't be.
Why do you go to church? Why do you go to church? Because sometimes you need the teaching, and sometimes you need to catch it. You can't learn everything. Look at how many years do you spend in school, Dr. Teresa?
Oh God, I 16? Got my last. Probably so. Yeah, probably.
Let's say 16. That's 5 days a week. Let's just say 5 days a week. Let's be conservative. That's 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's 40 hours a week times 52 weeks. That's about 2,000 hours a year. 2,000 times 16, 32,000. 32,000 hours you spent minimum. Okay, doesn't include studying. Doesn't include writing essays and so on and so forth. 32,000. But we spend 2 hours a week at church, and we think we know everything there is in the Bible. And that is more important than no offense to those who have degrees and college and everything. You think 2 hours a week times 52 weeks a year is 104 times your lifetime. That's almost 7,000 hours, but you're talking about 30,000 hours. Just
Mhm.
so, pardon me if I say the eternal is more important than the temporal. And you don't have, look at the angels who worship God. They cry holy, and they've been with God for eons. And holy just means, what is this?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we think we know God. Okay. All right. Enough about that. Moving along.
Well,
Meanwhile,
let me go back. Let me go back just a moment, Chris. I need to write this down. Now, I got can't. If you can't learn it, you can't. You have to catch it. And what was the other one you said? Can't be.
what can't be taught must be caught.
Mhm. Be taught. Must be caught. And then can't learn. You have to get. Okay. Okay. Yeah, just a variation of that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put that on a sticky so that when I'm talking to some folks about some different things, it will help them to understand what I'm saying.
So
Because that's so important. Because if you
you don't
can't, if you
have,
haven't learned it, then you're gonna have to catch it now if you're gonna complete it.
if you have learned it but can't apply it. See,
Come
because
on.
here's the thing: just because you have knowledge doesn't mean you have wisdom.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
There's a small step called understanding in between.
Yes.
And so when you start dealing with people and situations and objects, and for example, we both know someone who does very well in podcasting.
Hmm.
Why do I hang around him? Because I want to do very well in podcasting. I mean,
Yes.
he's a good guy too, but besides
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
I spend time with people who are where I want to be, not where I've been, not where
Yes.
I'm at, but where I
Yes.
want to be.
Hmm.
But guess what? He hangs out with me because I've done better at YouTube than him.
Uh-huh.
So there's a cross pollination there.
Hmm.
So the thing is this. So if you want to get better at Instagram, find someone who's good at Instagram, watch their stuff. Now, fellas, just because she's a beauty influencer and only wears swimsuits on her channel doesn't mean you should be watching her to get good at Instagram or TikTok,
Hmm.
because you're not watching her to get better. You're watching
You just
some other
watching her.
reason. We're
Exactly.
moving on now.
Just watching her.
Find someone who's doing something similar to you.
Hmm.
Find out what they're doing, what works, what doesn't work, and then more importantly, what doesn't work for you. Because me and Dr. Teresa could have the same exact podcast, but my perspective is different than hers. Her perspective is
Hmm.
different than mine. So you can't do it exactly like this is where we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because here's another good one for you, Doctor. I can't be the best Teresa Smith there is. I can only be a second rate Dr. Teresa Smith.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't even try to be second rate because I found that it takes everything in me to be the best Chris Collier I can be.
Yes.
And so I don't want to be anyone else. I don't want to put on their skin. I don't want to put on their voice. I may
Hmm.
pick things up in tone and tenor. I may pick things up that I see that work
Yes.
in communication, but I'm not trying to be that person.
Mm-mm.
To quote one of my favorite professional wrestlers of all time, if you smell what the Rock is cooking, because at the end of the day is you got to be who you are,
Hmm.
and that will attract the people who are like you. You said
Hmm.
yesterday, quoting the Bible, my sheep hear my voice.
Know my
People
voice.
who are called to Chris will
Hmm.
listen to Chris because the way I communicate, the way
Yeah.
I talk. People are coded to Dr. Teresa Smith,
Mhm.
will be sent to her because they can hear her, they can see her, they almost can smell her, they can taste her.
Mhm.
They know what she's getting ready to say
Mhm.
or the way she's getting ready to deliver it. Might not know the exact verbiage, but she
Mhm.
in general they know where she's going.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
called connection, folks. It's
Yes.
important. So, Dr. Teresa, how do you develop connection?
Well, Chris, I'm going to go to something that you just said. Um, and I think this is how I do it too. Um, when I was growing up, there's a mortician in my home, and his last name is Smith too. And his slogan is often imitated, never duplicated. And I've grown up hearing that my whole life. Often imitated, never duplicated. And you can see the way I say it because that has always resonated with me. How do I connect with people? I am Teresa. I am TAS all day long. And as I have to help people to understand that don't really know me, I'm Teresa because my name is Theresa Ann Smith. That's TAS. Those are my initials. So I am who I am. I can remember years ago there was some sermon that was preached, or either some scripture that was part of a Sunday school lesson, a Baptist training union. And what came out of it was be the best of who you are. And I was a precocious little girl, guys. So let me preface it by saying this. And I probably said to my mama after church, so let me clean it up a little bit too. So, so if somebody's going to be, I'm just going to be tall. If somebody's going to be a streetwalker, they need to be the best streetwalker that there is.
That's true.
If somebody is going to be this, they need to be the best because that's what I got from that sermon, that passage, whatever it was, and I've never forgotten it. So often imitate it, never duplicate it. Be the best at who you are. Then people can connect with you. You know, I'm always trying to figure out what people know and what they don't know because only when I understand them can I connect with them. But that's a hard thing for people to get because people will think that I am interrogating them. Well, I'm not really interrogating it, but I'm trying to find out what it is that I know that you know. As I said to someone recently, my first degree is in criminal justice and I love the law. I took the LSAT, I just didn't go to law school. I love it. So when I am in that mindset of trying to figure out how to connect so I can get you to understand something, I am doing rapid fire questions. And I want you to answer my question as I ask the question. You see, the problem with people is they don't want to answer the question. What do you mean, Tosh? I ask you, is the sky blue? Well, you know, when I looked out last, it was a little white. It was kind of white, cloudy, and then over on the in the far east, it was kind of dark. I think it was some dark bluish black clouds, and it looked like it might be gonna rain. But you know, normally when I look out, it's just nice blue Carolina blue clouds. But today, I hadn't even looked outside today. I asked you, is the sky blue? I think that was the question. You correct me. Was that not the question? Is the sky blue? Answer my question. Because when you don't answer the question, you're disrespecting yourself. I'm on that respect thing. Because now, if you do this with me, you do it with yourself. Understand that. You do it with yourself, which means I believe that people don't run game on you. You run game on yourself. What do you say?
Mm,
Because
mm.
I don't want to be honest with me. So I sucker myself into believing that this is what it is. Well, that ain't what it is. Understand that's not it. And you know it's not it, but I'd rather believe that it's like this. That's not it. When are you going to stop play acting and live a real life? Answer my question. Is the sky blue? Are you respecting yourself or not? Well, are you exercising? No. Well, you are not respecting yourself. How can I connect with you when I'm not honest with myself? Because I need you to connect with me honestly if I am to help you. Because if not, nothing's going to happen. He said, who touched me? Oh, Messiah, there's a lot of people out here in this crowd. I said, who touched me? That's what he asked. He didn't say anything about all these people out there. He knows there's a lot of people out there. He can see the crowd. Who touched me? That was the question that he asked. Because he could feel the light go out of him. Answer the question. But we don't want to answer the question. And if you don't want to answer the question, stop saying you won't help. Stay where you are and don't complain about it. As my niece would say, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. Oh, you know, sometimes I get a little passionate, but this is TAS. This is the TAS that people see when I'm not on camera. Because my thing is this, as Mike Murdoch said, and you know, we talked about Mike, my sheep will know my voice. If you want to stay stuck, I'm not your person. If you want to move, I'm your person. If you want me to feed it to you a certain way, I can feed it to you a certain way, but I'm going to feed it to you real because I will have to pay for that. And people got to understand. As I think we chatted, or I've chatted with so many people recently, everyone is born with a purpose. Once your purpose has been activated, and for us, it's being saved, it's been activated now. I will have to answer for everything that I do. So I can't play with God's purpose for me. And if you're not supposed to connect with me, move on, or either I'm going to move you on because I have to pay for what I didn't do. And there are times when I know that people have to go, whether it's in all parts of my life. They got to go because I am not doing them good, and they certainly are not doing me good. And I have to go back to respect for me. Because when I take up time doing stuff that I'm not supposed to do, that prevents me from moving down the road to the person that I have to impact life. God's going to hold me accountable for that because we have free will. And I'm just going to bring that to a conclusion, right? I'm going to bring it to a rock. And you see, I done got all hyped up. I'm about ready to preach a sermon here today for some reason.
No, you're good. You're good. Because I think one of the things is and this is just staying on the Christian side of things, is we forget that sometimes people think, okay, sometimes there is demonic activity. Let's just be real. Sometimes there is. But sometimes, there's something called a stronghold. People think that's demonic. It can be, but not usually, because the devil's not going to bind someone up who binds themselves up. And a stronghold listen to what a stronghold is when you look at the Greek and the Hebrew, is someone who has an argument in their own mind with themselves.
Come on now.
Think about this. The Bible says an unstable man will get nothing from God. He's tossed to and fro with every wave of doctrine. Let me explain that for those of you who don't understand what that is. It's not that, do I believe in everlasting salvation, or once saved, always saved, or can I lose my salvation and be re-redeemed? We're not talking about that kind of doctrine. We're talking about this. Should I go to church today or should I not? Should I give my tithes and offerings or should I not? When you start arguing back and forth, you're unstable and God can't give you anything because you're not, for example, at least if you say, I'm not giving tithes and offerings, God can honor that because you're standing on something. Do you know that if people say, why do bad things happen in the world? I can tell you, because sin was released into the earth. And even though there's a good God, bad things happen because of sin. Just what happens. But why did that someone that was 25 die and they just gotten saved and got their life right? Why that person died? Maybe if they lived longer, they would go back to the world.
Yeah.
Or why that person lived to be 70 and give their life to the Lord at the last second, or maybe not at all. Because we don't know all the inner workings. And if God would have given that kid a chance who was 8, and that kid didn't get cancer and die, it's sad that happened. It's painful that happened. That family, I had a friend that my brother had a friend who had an aneurysm at 8, and he passed. Can I tell you, that family's forever changed, served God harder, stronger, loved each other more. When you go through something like that, you know that this time could be the last time. You don't take it for granted. Like I didn't lose my dad till 2 years ago. We didn't have a death in our family at all. And so we took some of that for granted. My last conversation with Dad, I was at work, and he said, son, I'm in the hospital. I don't feel well. I said, well, Dad, get some rest. I'll call you when I never had a chance to talk to him again. Do I regret that? Because it's just the way it was. I can't live and I can't go relive that. So I can't, as some of these guys down here say, I don't have no dog in that race.
No.
I can't go back and rerun that race. Even if I had the dog, I do. I was his son. I was his eldest son. But I can't go back and rerun that race. If I could, would I say something more? I don't know, because he was on a machine. I could barely hear him. So I could relive that. But why? Why put yourself through? That's torture. I wonder why you can't figure out what to do, how to answer, is the sky blue? Because you tortured yourself and you don't know how to come to a complete stop. So you have to.
I'm sorry. Go right here, Chris.
You have to unravel that house of arguments that you built upon yourself. It's like a thread, right? You start pulling the thread, it starts coming. That house of arguments comes undone. So you've got to release yourself from that. You got to be free. You got to free yourself. No one's going to free you. Yeah, Jesus can free you, of course, but most of the time he allows you to work through it yourself because you locked yourself up.
Exactly. I was just going to say, Chris, I want to get this out because I think it's important. As I'm unpacking something, I will often say, you talked about that unstable man. I will often say, for those who know me, I can make a decision and that's it. When that decision is made, it doesn't matter what it is, it's a done deal. But I've trained my family to know if I am indecisive, that's a red flag. And when you were talking about that unstable man, I never thought about it from that lens because there's something that's wrong with me when I am not stable. And stable for me means making a decision, and that's it. And when you talk about helping people and connecting and people having their hero journey, understanding your red flags is so important because as you talked about, that unstable man is what wraps themselves up into a frenzy, is what I'm going to say it. Likewise, for me, when I'm indecisive, meaning I'm going, well, I said it today, then, well, it might have been 30 minutes ago, well, I changed my mind. I know I've reached my peak. And I've tried to train people around me to know that means she's got to stop because I'm unstable. But when we talk about people, whether it's the faith or it's their work or it's relationships, instability is what's the word I want to use? Instability makes the foundation fragile. I think I'll say it that way. And when the foundation, now I'm going to these, building your house and foundations, but I'm not going to go down that road. I don't
You
know.
gotta have a rock. Don't build out in sand. Come on now.
Thank you. And so it's like, oh, I'm not building a solid foundation. No, you're not. And you don't realize it because you can't answer the question if the sky blue. So how would you know that you're not on a solid foundation?
Well, you said something key there. I heard this long time ago in my 20s. A guy said, make a decision, then make it right. Because some people worry about making the right decision. You can't make a right decision. You have to make a decision and make it right.
Mm-hmm.
I heard something else. Wealthy people make decisions quickly, change them slowly. So if you're going to be wealthy, why not do what the wealthy people? Make a decision quick, back it up. Sure, do your research. If it takes you a day to do your research, do your research. But once you come to a conclusion, go with it and don't back down from it until you get new information and then slowly change to what you think it should be. Because it's hard to look at. You come
Preach,
this
black
far.
man, preach.
You come this far in your life to get to where you are.
Yes.
Why would you want to go back?
Oh, the children
burn the bridges, burn the boats, and keep moving forward.
If it was so great, why did you walk away from it? Why did you get out of it? Once he has let you get out of Egypt, why are we going back and doing the same practices that we were doing when we were there? Just because times got hard. I didn't tell you life wasn't going to be challenging. That don't mean that you just throw up and go immediately back to what you once did.
So
that can be addictions, it can be anything.
You want to trade your freedom, not knowing, trusting God for every day's provision, and going back to whips and chains for lemon and leeks. Something wrong with you.
Something wrong. Unstable. Unstable mind.
Well, we say that, doctor. But here's the reality of it. We make fun of the Israelites for acting how they acted in the wilderness. We make fun of Adam and Eve. But here's the funny part. God put us and does put us in the same situations, and we do the exact same thing.
We've not learned at all. And and as a child, I would always watch the Ten Commandments. And I just could never understand that, how they begged and he got them out. And then Moses goes up and then they go back to, worshiping the idol God. I didn't understand that. And I'm going to be honest, even now as an adult, I struggle sometimes with people and even myself, but I try not to do it. Because to me, that's a problem when I'm swinging back to something that I've made a final decision on. That's a problem. And it's not whatever it is, whether it's work, whatever it is, church, it doesn't matter. That's something that I have to take care of because I believe in free will. We've got the Bible to as a guide to help us to make decisions because we see what happens when they make their decision. Then I have to apply that to today's world. And I get dismayed, particularly with people of faith who don't appear to understand and then apply the wisdom that we get from the Bible to their life. Um, and that just dismays me. But I also understand they in the flesh just like I am, and you up today and down tomorrow. Today I don't understand it, but in the next week I'm gonna understand it. I'm gonna be back on track because it's called living. But again, you give yourself a little grace. Don't stay there and get back on track. Man falls 7 times, get back up again. So
Well, I always use the Apostle Paul. He said, I do the things I don't want to do and don't do the things I do want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I'm like, but he called himself the chief of all apostles.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, let me rephrase that. Do you understand the Apostle Paul started off proclaiming, I'm the chief of all apostles. When he got done, he said, I'm the least of these.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has more, and I'll tell you what it has to do more with. It has to do more with perspective. He may have still been the chief of apostles, but when you get in front of Jesus, there's an old song, and the things of this world fade away in the light of your glory and grace. When you see Jesus for who he really is, all your accomplishments become a dung heap.
Won't mean anything.
So I'm glad I brought that up. How do you help people gain perspective, Dr. Teresa?
That's trial and error. Because what I understand is as I'm walking them through that, I'm not just battling, and that's the right word. I'm not just battling what they're battling at this moment. I'm battling all of the baggage that they bring with them, all of their experiences, all of their family's experience and their friends. I'm battling hundreds of years of experiences. And so what I do is I do it one step at a time. Excuse me. My thing is I'm a chart paper person, guys, and I can do it on the computer, but I like chart paper because I like people to be able to actually see it away from anything else. I'm going to be asking them, what is it? What's your goal? And I would phrase it differently for different people because sometimes we don't understand what somebody means by goals. What is it that you want? What is it that you want? Then I'm going to ask them to paint the picture of what does that look like in their words. Or if they're somebody that wants to draw that out so that we can visually see that. And then as we're going through these different exercises, I'm going to be asking them, okay, what does that look like? How do you achieve that? Okay, so you're saying it looks like this. So does that mean that you have to perform a certain way? Do you have to engage with that community a certain way? Because all of that is building that change perspective. It's all about that growth mindset, but you have to figure out how to do it because people want the best. They don't know how to get it. And it's hard to change somebody's perspective because they don't know another way. And it's like, well, how can you not know? Well, I know another way for that. But for this one, I don't know another way. And I'm the same way. There are things that are still very foreign to me. Social media is still very foreign to me. It just is. And somebody on the outside would say, but you're on and you're doing this and you're doing that. Yes, but I'm learning that. And I'm having to change my perspective. And because social media is constantly evolving, I have to constantly change my perspective. Such is life, whether it's about a work situation, family, children, whatever. You have to constantly evolve, but that means being open to it and figuring out how best to kind of lead push, propel that person towards what their goal is. But what does that look like, and what perspective you have to bring to the table in order to accomplish it, but more important, to sustain it. You
Mm,
know this as a married person. I'm gonna throw this right on back to you, Chris. You know what they say: whatever you did to get them, you're gonna have to keep doing it to keep them.
man. And if you show skin before you're married, you run out of skin at some point. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But I'll say this is for those of you who don't believe in generational curses or generational blessings, or that history has a way of repeating itself. My dad wanted to be a baker. I'm in the food industry. It doesn't go far fall from the tree. But let me tell you, I can give you scripture. It says Terah, no, Abraham's father, Terah.
Mhm.
It said he picked up his stuff and moved. It doesn't say much else other than that. He moved from one part of the country to another. Could he have gotten the same promise Abraham got, but only did a half step?
Possibility.
I would submit he did because
Mhm.
because Abraham had to end up getting the same call. Move
Mhm.
away from your father's house. And
Mhm.
sometimes there's not enough courage, enough faith for one generation to move. And sometimes the climate's not right. Think about,
Mhm.
imagine this 400 years, the Jews were in slavery in Egypt,
Mhm.
and they're praying the same prayers for 400 years, same emotions, same passion, but God didn't deliver them for 400 years
Mhm.
to the fulfillment of time. It, that word means till time got pregnant and delivered.
Debate.
So there's so many different things you could apply that to. You could apply it to your own life. You could apply it to other people's and other generations. But the thing is this, is God was not moved by their crying. He had God. This is the thing about God. We don't understand. See, people say, how does God work with time? God is outside of time. Matter of fact, I would wager that there's a belt called time on God.
Mhm.
And when he unstraps it, time ends.
Mm.
Because think about this. The Bible says Jesus was, I don't want to make this all word, but oh well, it's going to be.
Mhm.
Jesus was the lamb slain at the foundation of the world. Why is that? That's when time started.
Mhm.
Because man was given time, something that angels were not given when they made their mistake. The number one proof that God loved man was time. Because Lucifer made a mistake, sinned, and was
Mhm.
condemned to stay in that position the rest of his existence. Man made a mistake. This is why the devil doesn't like you or I.
Mhm.
Is because we made a mistake and God's willing to forgive us. He
Yes,
gave us time,
he was time.
something the devil doesn't have. So he thinks he's hurting God by, and
Mhm.
he is, and he is. God doesn't. God wishes that none shall perish, but he thinks he's hurting God by destroying his image and likeness in us, the
Mhm.
hope of glory. So
Mhm.
that's the only reason why the devil's active. He wants to destroy us because the angels even baffle at us. What is man that you are mindful of him, God? We're creating this image and likeness, but stuck in time. My friend likes to say it this way. He said, we understand 1D, we understand 2D, we understand 3D. Heaven's 10D.
I'm a Marvels girl. I just can't even imagine 10D.
Well, the only way we can understand 10D is if someone from 10D comes down and explains it to us
Mhm.
in 3D terms,
Yep. Yep.
and then we can kind of get a glimpse of it.
Mhm.
And what do we do to the one? Never mind. So it's getting to the place, doctor. How can people find you? Where can they reach you? And what do you have to offer them?
Well, Chris, I am enjoying this. Um, but folks can reach me on my website. I provide coaching to individuals, organizations. I do consulting. Of course, I have my own show. I love to bring people on and impact their things because it's always amazing to me what comes up because my goal is to help other individuals. So they can find me on my website, which is ask drtas.com. Ask They can message me from there. I'm also Dr. Teresa Smith on Instagram. I'm Teresa Smith and Dr. Teresa Smith on Facebook. And then I'm Dr. Theresa Smith, aka Dr. TAS, on LinkedIn. So I offer coaching services, I offer trainings, speaking. What I always try to leave people with is this: we all have been paralyzed by something, and that impacts us individually. It also impacts organizations. So my focus is removing the chains that are keeping people paralyzed so that they work effectively as individuals in their lives and their careers, and likewise so that organizations help them remove the chains that are preventing their employees be from acting or working at their optimal level, because there is a connection, guys, between how employees work and how profitable organizations are. And so when you can create an environment where they balance each other out, then the employer gets what they want and the employee gets what they want. And so my goal is to help, whether it's the organization or the individual, to function in an empowered way so that goals are being met. And so I love talking with people and helping them work out their plans of action or organization plans of action to be successful. Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
All right, let's try that again.
Mhm.
Doctor, thank you so much for being on today. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, I have
Uh,
enjoyed everything, Chris.
is there like a quote or something you'd like to share before we go off?
I'm gonna do my sign off. My sign off is take care of you before you take care of someone else. And it's all the things that we've talked about today. When you are not in a stable place, you're not able to then connect with other people. And you may be able to do it for a short term, but you're not able to do it for the long term. And this thing that we call life, it's not a sprint, it is a journey. So, in order to be able to live it to the fullest, you must start now learning how to take care of yourself. And that's the reason why I said it was something that God gave me, and I'm learning more about it, about what it really means. And so that's what I share with the audience. Learn to take care of yourself. It's not selfish, because if you can't take care of yourself, you cannot do what you were destined to do. And that is very important. And that's the reason why we exist in the world today. So take care of you before you take care of someone else. Thank you so much, Chris, for letting me share that.
You're welcome. My name's Chris Collier. I'm your host. Please like, share, subscribe, and have a good night, evening, or morning, depending on where you're at.
Bye now.